how do you define harm? If you're going to ask me, harm is actually a verb, and it can also be a noun. When you say, or when you use harm as a verb, then it actually involves actions, like physically hurting someone, making sure that the other person is affected by your actions. But when you say harm as a noun, or when you use it as a noun, you actually are referring to the effect or on the emotional aspect that is the product of your actions. I actually remember this story of a husband and wife, and this story is actually talking about battery of women, and it clearly showcases the differences or the difference between harm as a verb and harm as a noun. The husband, who is actually the one who beats up the wife, is doing the physical harm. The video actually showcases the husband beating the wife for no reason, dragging her for no reason at all, and then the wife just sits there and lets him do his thing. The wife, for me, actually exhibits harm as a noun because she is the one who actually absorbs the action. So in a way, psychologically, she gets affected by that, and harm is done to her, and it might take its toll in the future. So basically, harm for me is associated with negativity. Why do I say that? Because I have reasons to believe that harm is almost always associated with frustrations, with anger, with angst, with chaos. So for me, harm is basically the root of all evil. Now, I can also think of the story of Pandora's box. That the moment this box was opened, all of these negativities were actually freed and were let go, when in fact they should have been kept in that box, safe and sound, without harming the world. But then again, at some point, I'm also thinking it must have happened just to have balance on earth. Because if there's no harm, then it only means it's perfect all the time, and it might be boring, actually. So in the end, I think harm generally might be negative, but in the end, you actually have a choice. You can act on it and be a victim of the vicious cycle and just repeat being somebody who will harm other people, and then it just happens and happens until, as I said, it becomes a vicious cycle. On the other hand, I believe you have a choice. That when you become harmed or when you get harmed, you have the choice to use that experience to become better and to make a difference. You have a choice to use that harm to improve yourself and to make sure that the cycle stops, and to make sure that you no longer become a victim and you make a stand. So harm is a very powerful word, but I also believe that it has the power to transform. All you have to do is make the choice.